The message from space reached Earth on a quiet Tuesday morning. Admiral Lee stood in the control room of Global Defense Headquarters, his face grim as the alien transmission played on the main screen. "People of Earth," the message began, delivered, in perfect English by a tall, blue-skinned being. "I am High Commander Tarek of the Galactic Hegemony. Your world now falls within our expansion zone. Your surrender is expected within one planetary rotation. Resistance is unnecessary, and will result in your extinction." The transmission ended, leaving the room in shocked silence. For decades, humanity had sent signals into space, hoping to find friendly neighbors among the stars. Instead, they found the hegemony, a massive empire spanning thousands of star systems. "How many ships?" Admiral Lee asked. General Han checked the sensor readings. "Our long-range scanners detect approximately 10,000 warships approaching the outer solar system. Each one appears larger than our biggest space station." Admiral Lee nodded slowly. For 30 years he had warned that first contact might not be peaceful. Few had listened, but some had. "Call an emergency meeting of the World Security Council," he ordered, "and notify Director Bay that Project Thunderbolt may need to be activated." 4 hours later, 24 leaders from Earth's most powerful nations gathered in an underground facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. The mood was dark as Admiral Lee presented the situation. "The hegemony controls nearly 1/5 of the galaxy," he explained. "They've conquered hundreds of civilizations. None have successfully resisted. What options do we have?" asked President Yoon of the United North American Alliance. "Admiral," Lee looked to Director Bay, a small woman with short gray hair who had remained silent until now. "We fight," she said simply. Prime Minister Han of the East Asian Cooperative laughed bitterly. "With what? Our most advanced ships are barely capable of reaching Mars. They have 10,000 warships." Director Bay pressed a button on her tablet. The center of the table opened, revealing a hologram of a sleek spacecraft unlike anything humanity had publicly built. "This is ONS Nemesis," she said. "For 30 years, my organization has been developing technologies based on principles of physics that conventional science considered impossible." The room erupted in angry questions. How could such a project exist without their knowledge? Who had authorized the funding? Who controlled this ship? Admiral Lee raised his hand for silence. "What Director Bay is trying to explain is that we have one ship capable of facing the hegemony." "One ship against 10,000? Chancellor Kwan asked in disbelief. "Yes," Director Bay said confidently. "One is all we need." The debate raged for hours. Some leaders wanted immediate surrender, hoping to negotiate favorable terms. Others demanded they launch every nuclear weapon Earth possessed, even knowing it would be futile. In the end, Admiral Lee made the decision. As head of Earth's unified military forces, emergency protocols gave him authority during first contact scenarios. "We will deploy the Nemesis," he announced. "If it fails, we can still attempt surrender." The next morning, Commander Park received her orders. At 42, she was Earth's most decorated space officer, though her most important missions remained classified. She had been training with the simulator for the Nemesis for 5 years, never quite believing she would actually command it. "The ship is ready," Technical Director Moon told her as they walked through the hidden lunar base where the Nemesis had been constructed. "The phase drive is fully operational. Weapon systems are at maximum capacity." Commander Park studied the vessel through the observation window. Unlike the bulky ships of Earth's public space program, the Nemesis was elegant, its dark hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. "And the crew?" she asked. 300 personnel, as planned. "The best we have." Meanwhile, on the Hegemony command ship, High Commander Tarek received a response from Earth. His translator converted the human language into something he could understand. "To the Galactic Hegemony, we decline your offer of surrender. A single ship will meet your fleet at the coordinates provided. Further aggression against Earth will be considered an act of war." Tarek laughed so hard that his second-in-command looked concerned. "They're sending one ship?" Tarek said in disbelief. "Not even a proper fleet? Perhaps it's a ruse." his second suggested. No, Tarek said, still amused. They're simply primitive. They don't understand the power they face. He gave orders to his fleet. Send only the first battle group to meet this human vessel. 1,000 ships should be sufficient to show them their hopelessness. As the Nemesis prepared to depart Earth's moon, Commander Park addressed her crew. What we do today will determine humanity's future, she said. The hegemony believes we are weak because we are young. They're about to learn otherwise. The Nemesis silently lifted from its lunar cradle and accelerated toward its destiny, carrying humanity's hopes with it. The ONS Nemesis moved silently through space, its dark hull absorbing rather than reflecting light. Inside the bridge, Commander Park studied the tactical display. The ship's systems hummed with power unlike anything humanity had publicly acknowledged possessing. Status report, she ordered. Lieutenant Kang looked up from his console. All systems, operational, Commander. Phase drive at full capacity. Shields ready. Commander Park nodded. Few people on Earth knew the truth about the Nemesis. While the public space program built bulky exploration vessels, a secret program had been developing something entirely different. How long until we reach the meeting point, she asked. 6 hours at current speed, replied Navigator Sun. The hegemony fleet is already there, waiting. Commander Park touched a small panel on her chair. All crew, this is Commander Park. In 6 hours, we will engage an alien force that believes humanity is primitive and weak. They expect us to beg for mercy. Instead, we will show them what humans are truly capable of. Throughout the ship, 300 crew members listened. They had been chosen from military forces around the world, selected not just for skill, but for psychological stability. Each had spent years training in secret for this mission. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Moon checked the phase drive, the heart of the Nemesis. Unlike conventional engines that pushed against space, the phase drive allowed the ship to partially exist between dimensions. Is it stable? Asked his assistant, Technician Ryu. As stable as something that breaks the laws of physics can be, Chief Moon replied with a small smile. He patted the metal housing of the drive. 20 years ago, this technology was just a theory. Now it's our best hope. 2 decks below, Lieutenant Choi supervised the loading of phase torpedoes into the ship's main weapons array. Each torpedo contained a tiny artificial singularity, capable of bypassing enemy shields by phasing through dimensional barriers. Careful with those, he warned the weapons team. One mistake, and we'll create a very small, very dense black hole. Wouldn't that be bad for everyone? Asked a young technician. Extremely, Lieutenant Choi agreed. That's why we don't make mistakes. In the medical bay, Dr. Han prepared her staff for casualties. She hoped their services wouldn't be needed, but experience had taught her to prepare for the worst. We've never treated wounds from alien weapons before, she told her team. We'll adapt as necessary. Remember your training. Meanwhile, in her private quarters, Commander Park reviewed everything known about hegemony ships. The information was limited. Distant observations and intercepted transmissions mostly. The aliens relied on energy shields and plasma weapons. Their tactics emphasized overwhelming force rather than subtlety. A soft chime announced a visitor. Enter, she called. Lieutenant Kang stepped inside, carrying a data tablet. Final system checks are complete, he reported, but there's something else. He hesitated. The crew is asking why we're facing the hegemony alone. They deserve to know. Commander Park considered this. You're right, she finally said. She stood and followed him back to the bridge. The ship's senior officers gathered around the central tactical display as Commander Park activated a secure communication channel. Admiral Lee, we're ready for final briefing, she said. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. Commander Park, what I'm about to share is known to fewer than 50 people on Earth. The officers listened intently as Admiral Lee explained. 200 years ago, a damaged alien ship had crashed in a remote area of Earth. Its sole survivor lived just long enough to share a warning about the galactic hegemony and provide technical data about advanced technologies. For generations, we've been preparing, Admiral Lee said. The Nemesis carries technology based on principles the hegemony abandoned long ago as too unpredictable. They chose the path of brute force. We chose the path of dimensional physics. Why send just one ship? Asked Lieutenant Kang. Because the Nemesis is a test, replied Admiral Lee. We need to know if our approach works. If it does, Earth has other ships ready, each more advanced than your own. Commander Park looked around at her officers, seeing the realization dawn on their faces. They weren't on a suicide mission. They were the vanguard. One more thing, Admiral Lee added. Initial scans suggest the hegemony has divided their fleet. They're sending only 1,000 ships to meet you. Lieutenant Choi laughed. They think they're being generous. As the briefing ended, Commander Park returned to the bridge. Through the view screen, she could see distant stars, some possibly home to worlds already under hegemony control. They've conquered hundreds of civilizations, she said quietly. But they've never met humans before. 3 hours to contact, announced Navigator Sun. Commander Park took her seat in the command chair. Battle stations, she ordered. Around her, the crew of the Nemesis prepared to make history. In the vast, silent expanse of space, a small research vessel drifted near the edge of the solar system. Captain Elena Rodriguez sat in her command chair, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display flickering with strange energy signatures. Something was different today. The ship's sensors had been picking up unusual electromagnetic waves for hours. At first, the crew dismissed them as cosmic background noise, but now the patterns were too consistent to ignore. Dr. James Chen, the lead physicist, leaned over his console, his fingers dancing across the touchscreen. Captain, he called out, his voice trembling slightly. These readings, they're not natural. The bridge fell silent. Every crew member knew what those words could mean. Humanity had spent decades searching the stars, hoping, wondering if they were truly alone. Now something was answering back. The signal came in pulses, mathematical, precise, not random, not a mistake. Something intelligent was trying to communicate. Elena's heart raced. She had trained for this scenario, but no simulation could prepare her for the actual moment. Her hands gripped the armrests of her chair, knuckles turning white. The communication system crackled. Strange tones emerged, unlike any human language. They were rhythmic, almost musical, but completely alien. Dr. Chen worked furiously, attempting to decode the transmission. Young communications specialist Sarah Martinez adjusted her headset, her fingers flying across complex translation algorithms. Her background in xenolinguistics suddenly felt both inadequate and incredibly important. Hours passed. The crew remained tense, barely breathing. Each pulse of the alien signal seemed to carry more complexity. It was like watching someone solve an incredibly intricate puzzle piece by piece. Suddenly, a breakthrough. Dr. Chen's screen filled with strange geometric symbols that gradually transformed into recognizable mathematical equations. They were communicating through the universal language of mathematics, prime numbers, geometric progressions, quantum mechanics principles. They're intelligent, Dr. Chen whispered. Definitely intelligent. The alien signal began transmitting what appeared to be visual data. Fragmented images emerged on the main screen, landscapes of impossible colors, structures that defied human architectural understanding, glimpses of a civilization completely unlike anything on Earth. Elena realized they were witnessing humanity's first true contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, not through radio signals or distant observations, but a direct, intentional communication. The crew watched in awe. Some wept silently. Others stood frozen, unable to process the magnitude of the moment. This was history happening in real time. P.O. Transmission continued, revealing complex scientific knowledge, mathematical theorems beyond current human understanding, glimpses of advanced technological concepts that seemed to bend the very laws of physics. Sarah's translation software worked overtime, gradually converting the alien communication into something comprehensible. Each translated fragment revealed More about the mysterious civilization reaching out across light years. They weren't just sending a message, they were extending an invitation. As the last fragments of the transmission faded, the bridge crew looked at each other. Everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Captain Rodriguez took a deep breath. Their mission had just transformed from exploration to something far more significant. First contact was no longer a theoretical possibility. It was happening right now, on this ship, in this moment. The alien signal repeated one final sequence, a mathematical pattern that seemed to symbolize peace, curiosity, and an invitation to further communication. Humanity had just received its first message from another civilization, and nothing would ever be the same again. Outside the ship's windows, stars continued their eternal dance, silent witnesses to this extraordinary moment of cosmic connection. As John walked into his small apartment, the weight of exhaustion pulled at his shoulders. The mysterious package he found 3 days ago still sat unopened on his coffee table. Something about it made him nervous, but tonight was different. He felt ready to face whatever was inside. With trembling hands, he carefully unwrapped the brown paper. Inside was an old leather-bound journal with yellowed pages and a small silver key taped to its cover. The journal belonged to his grandmother Sarah, who had passed away last month. John had always been close to her, but lately he'd noticed she had been acting strange before her death. As he turned the pages, his eyes grew wide. The journal revealed a family secret that had been hidden for decades. His grandmother wasn't just a kind old lady who baked cookies and told stories. She had been a spy during a secret war that most people knew nothing about. She worked with a hidden organization that protected magical artifacts from falling into the wrong hands. The last entry in the journal mentioned a powerful crystal that could control time itself. Sarah had hidden it somewhere in the city to keep it safe. The silver key, she wrote, would lead to its location. But she wasn't the only one who knew about it. A dangerous group was also searching for the crystal, and now they were closing in. John's hands shook as he read his grandmother's final warning. If you're reading this, my dear grandson, you're now part of this story. They know about you. They'll come looking. You must find the crystal before they do. Just then he heard footsteps in the hallway outside his apartment. They stopped right at his door. John quickly tucked the journal into his jacket and moved toward the window. The door handle slowly began to turn. His heart pounding, John realized his ordinary life had just become extraordinary. His grandmother's secret world was now his responsibility, and he had no choice but to run. As he climbed down the fire escape, he could hear his apartment door burst open. The chase had begun, and John knew this was only the beginning. The crystal was out there somewhere in the city, waiting to be found. With his grandmother's journal, as his guide and the silver key in his pocket, he disappeared into the night, ready to uncover the truth about his family's hidden legacy. Looking up at the night sky, John whispered, "I won't let you down, Grandma." Then he vanished into the shadows of the city streets, knowing that his next move would determine not just his fate, but perhaps the fate of the world itself. The distant sound of sirens filled the air as John merged with the crowd of people on the main street. He was no longer just John Chen, the quiet accountant who lived alone with his cat. He was now the keeper of a secret that could change everything, and somewhere in this vast city, a crystal of immense power waited to be found. His grandmother's last words echoed in his mind. Trust no one, but trust yourself completely. As he walked through the busy streets, John realized that his ordinary life had ended the moment he opened that package. Now a new chapter was beginning, one filled with danger, mystery, and magic. Thunder rumbled overhead as rain began to fall, but John kept walking. He had a feeling that somewhere in this city, others like his grandmother were watching, waiting, to see if he was worthy of the legacy she had left behind. With each step he moved further away from the life he knew, and closer to the truth that would change everything. The story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. And Chen was about to discover that the world was far more mysterious and dangerous than he had ever imagined. The only question was, would he be ready for what came next? Behind him, shadows moved in ways that shadows shouldn't, and somewhere in the distance a clock struck midnight. Time, it seemed, was already running out. In the Empire, things were getting worse. The Emperor was losing control. People in faraway lands stopped listening to him. They didn't want to pay taxes anymore. Soon, the Empire broke into pieces. In each piece, a different person became the ruler. They all wanted power for themselves. They fought many wars against each other. During this time, a young girl named Lyra lived in a small village. Her parents were farmers. Life was simple but hard. News of the fighting in faraway places sometimes reached her village. Lyra didn't understand why the rulers were fighting. She wished everyone could live in peace, like in her village. One day, soldiers from one of the new kingdoms came to Lyra's village. They told everyone the land belonged to their king now. Lyra's parents had to give the soldiers most of their crops. They didn't have enough food left for themselves. That winter was very difficult. Many in the village got sick, including Lyra's parents. Lyra had to work hard to care for them and get food. She often went to bed hungry. When spring arrived, Lyra hoped things would get better. But then the soldiers returned. This time they took even more food. They also took some of the young men from the village, including Lyra's brother, to be soldiers for their king. Lyra was very sad and angry. She missed her brother. Her parents were still sick. She didn't know how they would survive. As the years passed, the kings kept fighting their wars. More soldiers came to take from Lyra's village. Lyra saw that the wars didn't just hurt her village, but people everywhere. She wished the kings could see how much suffering they caused. Lyra decided that when she grew up, she would find a way to stop the fighting. She didn't know how, but she knew she had to try. For now, she worked hard to take care of her family and village. Someday, things would change. Lyra held on to that hope even in the hardest times.